Hi guys, it's Jordan and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be reviewing and discussing The Evolution of Mara Dyer by Michelle Hodkin. And I've buddy read this book with Trina from Between Chapters. This is a fantastic series to buddy read with somebody. If you haven't read this series yet, find somebody and buddy read it. It's so much better than if I was reading this by myself. This is the second book in the Mara Dyer trilogy, and let me tell you, this book, how do I describe this? It's about this young girl who has a very traumatic event, and following that traumatic event she suffers PTSD, she's suffering from hallucinations, she's kind of going crazy. But then there's always the underlying issue of whether or not she actually is going crazy or if what she's seeing is really there. So it's got this whole paranormal psychological thriller vibe to it. It's very confusing and very hard to explain and very hard to follow. The first book confused me because there were so many different things laid out and it was going in like 100 billion different directions, and Mara was blacking out all the time, or she wasn't. I mean, you didn't really ever know what was going on. In this book, those things are happening again, but Mara is under constant supervision, so when she is blacking out or when she is doing things that are a little wonky, someone's there to recount to her what exactly she did. So this one flowed a lot better for me. It was a little bit easier to follow. However, there's still like 100 different things laid out and we're going in like every direction still. I'm really interested to see how she wraps everything up because there are so many loose ends. It's like Pretty Little Liars. So those are my non-spoilery opinions of the second book. If you have not read it yet, I would suggest that you leave now. Bye, non-spoilery folk. Jordan out. Jordan back. I don't even know where I want to start with this book. The book opens up with Mara being in a committed psychiatric ward. I really liked that paralleled the first book. This whole book, we are constantly feeling the tension as Mara is basically walking on eggshells. There is so much that she could say or do or could go wrong and in a second land her in an institution. So the whole book is Mara very much like, how would a non-crazy person say this? You're just waiting for Mara to screw up. Mara wholeheartedly believes that what she's experiencing is the truth and that people basically just don't believe her. How do you convince somebody that you're not going crazy when they're all telling you that you're going crazy? It seems like we're still following the idea that Mara can kill people with her mind. This storyline definitely is like played out a little bit more in this book, and I don't like this storyline necessarily all that much. It's not the one that I want to see play out. However, there's like these subtle hints of this potentially possessed paranormal thing going on with her, and I really want that to come to fruition. Trina and I were sailing this ship hard. I was really convinced I had it figured out. I like to guess how things are going to end, and I like to be right, and so the fact that I can't guess where this book is going makes me really frustrated. Mara is like really convinced that Jude is still alive, and I just didn't see how that could possibly be possible. A building collapsed on him. So, like, how do you survive that? So I was thinking potentially maybe Jude was haunting her from the other side, or maybe he was like sent on some quest by like a demon or something. I don't know. Yes, guy at the police station saw him at the end of the first book. Just because someone else saw him does not mean that he's really real. So I was under the assumption for a majority of this book that Jude was not alive. And then I also started to have this thought that maybe Noah wasn't really real either. He didn't have a ton of interaction with her parents in the first book, but there's a lot of interaction between Noah and other people in this book, so Noah has to be real. Like, there's no way that Noah's not real. Maybe nothing's real. Maybe she's been in a coma this whole time and nothing is really real. I thought it was very ironic that Jamie ended up being at Horizons. How did the one person that she was friends with at school end up at her outpatient psychiatric facility? That just seemed way too coincidental to me. Maybe she's hallucinating seeing Jamie. How did he end up at Horizons? He was a fairly normal kid with anger issues. So much about Horizons is revealed at the end of this book. We also get these really interesting scenes that are flashbacks to Calcutta, India, with this girl, and I just don't have any idea how that fits into the story. It makes no sense. Seems like it has to be her grandma having these dreams, and so how on earth she had these just like memories of her grandma's childhood, there's no explanation for it really. So there's these hunters that are chasing this tiger, and there's a small girl huddled in the grass clutching a human heart. What? So we were thinking that maybe the tiger molted into this girl. The tiger's body was missing. The girl appeared out of the blood and the tiger disappeared into the bloods. And I was kind of under the impression that that human was Mara's grandma, but I call her Tiger Lady. So Tiger Lady gets taken by these hunters back to the man with the blue pants or something like that, and his daughter. You know, as they're describing this, we literally just hear about this doll that Mara had from her grandma. So they're talking about how Blue Man Pants' daughter knitting a doll for Tiger Lady and then gave the doll to Tiger Lady. The doll ends up being the same doll that Mara had. I was really freaking creeped out by this doll. The whole like section in the middle of the book with the doll. I don't want to read about the doll. I don't want to read about the doll. The doll, I was convinced was possessed. Oh my gosh, and then the scene where Mara throws the doll away. The creepy doll, she throws it away. Why would you throw it away? Burn it, do something to it. Don't just throw it away. Oh my god. Where she's opening up the underwear drawer and I'm like, no. The doll is not in the underwear drawer. No. Yep, the doll is in the underwear drawer. Fuck is with this doll? It's so fucking creepy. And then Noah so kindly tells her that she apparently blacked out and went and retrieved the doll out of the trash and said, I didn't mean to throw that away. What? I was really certain that the doll was possessed. So then her and Noah decide to burn the doll. Starts to notice the smell of burning hair. And I was like, Mara, put the doll out, put the doll out. The doll is connected to you, and because you're burning the doll, you're also on fire. A voodoo doll. And that when the doll was burning, her actual hair was burning. Apparently the doll was just stuffed with human hair, which is equally as creepy. When the doll gets burnt down, there is a charm pendant inside that matches Noah's. Noah got his from his mom. Mara got her doll from her grandma. So we're under the assumption Noah's mom and Mara's grandma knew each other. Trina and I are both like, no. Okay, we had to move on from the doll because the doll just like really creeps me out. Then I had this epiphany. Like I said, I was thoroughly convinced that Mara was possessed by a spirit. The unbecoming of Mara Dyer was about the spirit unbecoming her, like undoing her, making her go crazy. Evolution of Mara Dyer, the spirit was evolving. It was taking its roots in her. It was making itself a little bit more present. And I thought maybe like the retribution of Mara Dyer, something like her taking herself back, like her taking vengeance on the spirit. Ooh, I figured out the book titles. And I was really like excited about that. I thought that was so creative of me. I'm like, I got it all figured out. If only. At this point, I had remembered that, oh my god, the first book started with a Ouija board. So it has to be spirit demon possession based because why else would they have opened with a Ouija board? I had this epiphany while Mara was sitting in the room with Daniel and they were going through that story that she was potentially writing. Oh, well, it started with a Ouija board? Well, that changes everything. And I was like, well, that was kind of creepy because I was just thinking the same thing. Like I mentioned, I thought that Noah was possibly not real. So I was thinking, what if Noah is like this personified version of the spirit? Noah was really concerned about keeping her safe to the point where it was a little obsessive and I'm like, maybe he wants to keep his vessel safe. He needs her body intact because he's going to inhabit her. So that's why he's so attentive to her all the time. And then I was thinking, well, you know that kiss that happened in the first book where Mara was convinced she was killing Noah? Her body was reabsorbing Noah's spirit into itself, into the host body. That's why she interpreted it as, you know, killing him and he was like, oh, I'm being freed of it. I mean, that wasn't ever brought up, so I don't think that's actually what was going on. And then Mara's like, guys, I think I might be possessed. Daniel's like, no, don't put possession into your story. That's so lame. And whenever she brings us up to Noah, really blasé about it, kind of just like, no, I don't think that's it. Trying to throw her off the scent of what's actually happening because he wants to divert the attention away from him. But then this would make him a bad guy and so many people like Noah that I was like, I don't know if he really is like the villain of the story. So back to the India scenes because now we get another India scene at this point in the story. And she gives this doll, this creepy ass doll, to Tiger Lady. Mentioned something about how it didn't have a name. There's something really important about a name. I was like, there is something like really important about this concept. So then the Tiger Lady goes off into the woods to go fetch water. She's at the well and she sees this old lady starts freaking out, screaming Mara at Tiger Lady. What? Is she calling the doll Mara? Is she calling the Tiger Lady Mara? Like, why is she screaming Mara? So then I started thinking, is Mara the spirit. You know, Mara wasn't always Mara. She had another name before she moved to Florida. And she starts off the first book, or someone starts off the first book saying that they've changed their name for the point of recounting the story. So then I'm like freaking out. I'm like, oh my God, Trina, I figured it out. I figured it out. The name Mara is something really important. Also, I thought it was strange for her friends weren't alarmed when the board told them that Mara would kill them. I was very concerned. You know, you ask the board, how am I gonna die? It tells you Mara. I would take that as, holy crap, my friend's gonna kill me. At the time when they would have played with the Ouija board, she wouldn't have been Mara. I think this Mara is the problem. Trina decides to Google the word Mara. In Buddhism, Mara is a demon that tempted Gautama Buddha by trying to seduce him with the vision of beautiful women who in various legends are often said to be Mara's daughters. Holy crap, we figured it out. There is no way that Michelle Hodkin picked Mara out of her ass to name this character. This has to tie into the story somehow. So I couldn't remember how the beginning of the first book started. My name is not Mara Dyer, but my lawyer told me I had to choose something. Even telling you this much probably isn't smart, but without my big mouth, no one would know that a 17-year-old was responsible for the murders. It's important that you know, so you're not next. Rachel's birthday was at the beginning. This is what I remember. Mara Dyer, New York City. So is this actually our Mara that wrote this, or is this like a previous Mara? At no point in time was our character lived in New York. Guys, I think we're onto something. I really do. Is the doll named Mara, or did the tiger lady eventually adopt the name Mara? The old woman was screaming Mara at her, so either her or the doll had to have been named Mara. Then I'm thinking, what if the spirit is like possessed inside the doll? The story takes such a weird turn that none of this makes sense by the end. Like none of this, which made sense for a majority of the book, makes any sense once you get to the end of the book. So then the fortune teller tells Noah that he's destined for greatness but will die before his time if Mara does not let him go. What? Like, are they mortal enemies? Is he like supposed to fight her, slay the evil in her, and you know, he's the good? It sounds like a Voldemort Harry Potter situation here. Like one can't live while the other one survives. Noah is under the assumption that the fortune teller is completely lying to Mara and just like busting her balls and feeding her horseshit. And the fortune teller does say, yes, somebody paid me off to say this, but she didn't know who it was. And at first I thought maybe it was Jude. Well, who else could it be? And then I'm like, ooh, what if it's the witch doctor from the first book? Because if he's a witch doctor, he might be able to like see into the future or like read prophecies or I don't know, something, and then gave it to the fortune teller because she was like the most likely person they came in contact with that could relay this news to them. And then when Noah goes to check on this address that supposedly Claire and Jude lived at in New Jersey, this man answers the door and says he's never heard of these people. He's lived there for like 18 years, so there's no way that Jude and Claire could possibly have lived there. Did Jude and Claire not exist? Were they maybe like hallucinations too? Where did Jude and Claire live? Why would Rachel have given her that address? Unless this man is connected to this somehow, which I mean might be possible. Oh my God, when Mara finds that tape of themselves in the asylum. Holy crap. No, they did not record themselves in the asylum. I thought for sure we were going to have like a paranormal activity moment going on, and I really don't like that movie. What'd she do? Didn't she like crumble the building and then she like maniacally laughs like I killed my friends, isn't that so exciting? Do you remember when Daniel tells Mara that there's no way that that could be Jude on the surveillance tape because all they found of Jude were his hands and they buried just his hands? Yeah, that was creepy. Mara somehow tapped or mind controlled into this pulley system that controls the doors in the asylum, and she triggered it and they closed on Jude's hands. He didn't have hands. But this Jude that we keep meeting has hands. Watching this video recording of them in the asylum, and then she blacks out. And then what happens? She gets kidnapped. Of course she does. By Jude. Okay, well, I guess he must be real, because imaginary people can't kidnap you. When that cop went down, I was like, how did he go down? He touched Jude's box cutter and then hit the deck. Is Jude's box cutter magical or something? He ends up having a stroke because of Jude's nice little ability that he has stored in his back pocket that we didn't know about. Noah's like, how the heck did you get kidnapped? And you're like, what happened to John? You know, John's supposed to be your bodyguard. They found out that John also has a stroke. So John has a stroke in his car, and the cop has a stroke in the marina. They both had strokes. I'm not buying it. We learned about Jude's ability. Jude can also heal himself like Noah, but Jude pulls the life force out of his surrounding compadres, which is why the cop at the marina died, because after Jude stabbed himself with the box cutter, he used the cop's life force to heal himself. Well, that's a really obnoxious ability. So how do you kill Jude? Like, how do we get rid of him? Now I completely believe that Jude is probably still alive. He just regrew his hands back? Like, what? He can regenerate himself? He's like a lizard? Well, that's because Jude was around. Oh, because the treatment facility gets locked down. All the adults are gone, but all of the kids are still there. And then Jude arrives because Dr. Kells let Jude in and he's holding them hostage. Mara's like, oh my gosh, Stella can totally read Jude's mind. Whoa. There are other kids with like powers. But then at this point, I was so freaking confused because they explained so much of what had happened with like this powers line. Apparently, Dr. Kells has been like recruiting all of these kids with this specific gene. Kids with this gene have some weird ability. Apparently, she's part of some double-blind study. Throughout her life, her doctors, her parents were testing her for this gene, what is linked to these weird abilities, and it is also what Jamie and Noah and Stella and Jude and all of them have. At this point, I was just like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's happening. At the end, when she's reading off the list of test subjects, it says next to Jude and Claire that they were artificially manifested. So what if there's someone or some company out there creating people with these abilities for their experiments or whatever? In this list, this test subject list, says next to Noah Shaw's name, deceased. What do you mean he's deceased? Not buying it, not even for a second. We have a whole nother book, but Mara's entire world is going to crumble. I don't even know what state she's going to be in book 3 because Noah is like her saving grace. Where we were going at the beginning of the story is really different from where the story ends, and so I'm curious how she's going to tie them together. I hope it comes together well. I want to figure out the series before I read the 3rd book because I want to be right. So I think those are all of my thoughts for The Evolution of Mara Dyer by Michelle Hodkin. I don't know if this made sense, but I hope so. Let me know what your thoughts were in the comments down below. I'd love to hear what you thought of this book. And thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, bye!